From classics to children's books, you never know what she's gonna cook when Gretchen makes novel moms.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Novel Noms. This week, last week I did Little House on the Prairie, which was one of my favorite series of books when I was a kid. And I kind of am like in this thing lately where I am thinking about the books that I loved as a kid. And one that comes to mind immediately is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And I loved these poems as a kid because they were fun and they were whimsical, they were a little gross, had that kind of like the booger humor sometimes. But they were smart. I mean, silly's okay, but I feel like Shel Silverstein was something that can not just, be read, but could be enjoyed and kind of just be this source of fantasy and just really cool things that you remember. But I wanted to make something that kids would like, but that adults would like. And it kind of caters to their taste without dumbing it down and just being something you can throw in from the freezer. Because kids, they like good food too. Inspired by Shel Silverstein, this week we're going to make fish sticks from scratch, macaroni and cheese, and homemade pickles. That's right. And that, my friends, is inspired by probably one of my favorite poems, and I'll just read you one little part. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun. It's time we flew. Said ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. So we're going to make those pickles, and we're going to make fish sticks and mac and cheese, and it's going to be delicious. Now, I'm a big believer in staying away from boxed, jarred, processed stuff. Don't get me wrong. There's things of that nature that taste very good, very, very good. But they're not always the best thing for you, and sometimes making it from scratch and fresh tastes so much better, and kids will like that just the same. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the pickles because those need to cook and cool, and they'll be ready by the time dinner's ready. So I bought these Persian cucumbers. You can also get pickling cucumbers in your grocery store. They're just the little ones, these cute little cucumbers. And I'm going to do a bunch of these because I like pickles. And this is something you can use for a lot of different recipes too throughout the week. So I'm going to cut them into, like 1/4-inch slices. And cucumbers aren't the only thing that you can pickle. You can actually kind of pickle almost any vegetable, really. Cauliflower is really good pickled. Carrots are really good pickled. What else have I had? Onions, you could throw like pearl onions, a lot of people like. I don't particularly care for them, but you can kind of pickle any kind of vegetable like that. The next thing I'm going to do is make my pickling potion. And I'm going to take a pot and I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of white vinegar, about 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. I bought this from my grocery store. You could probably buy it at yours too. This is a pickling spice mix. So it's got dill seeds, coriander in there, it's got bay leaves, it's got mustard seed, all the things that you need for a good pickle, and it's even got some little spicy peppers that I like. Now if you can't find this in your store, I'm going to put the ingredients below that you can do it yourself. Put that in there, and I'm just going to turn the heat up on that and get that to cooking. This is also a good time that you could start your noodles for your mac and cheese. It's ready to go, so you can start that now. It already smells like pickles in here. I'm going to take my cucumber slices, stick those in there. I like my pickles a little garlicky, so I'm going to take 2 little garlic cloves, smash them up, and just drop them right in there. My liquid has come up to a rolling boil, so I'm going to take it off the heat. Make sure that you use a container that can withstand the heat, so something that's going to be okay in the microwave, in the dishwasher, otherwise it won't melt, and that will be gross. Pour it over my cucumbers. And then I'm just going to mix it up real good. What's going to happen is kind of work like a marinade. It's going to get into the pickles. It's going to like get in there and almost like cook it a little bit, but when it cooks it, it's going to steam it with that beautiful flavor. So you can buy the jarred pickles, but this is so much fresher, so much better. Okay, so now we're going to make our fish sticks. Shel Silverstein actually wrote a lot of poems about fish. I think there's one called like Underwater or something or other. There's shiny fish, silver fish. There were lots of fishing references. And who doesn't love fish sticks? I mean, really. I am going to use a mahi-mahi, which sounds very fancy-pantsy, but it is not. But you could use any fish you like. You want to use something that is flaky. I probably would use a salmon, but you could. I don't see why not. You could use haddock. You could use cod. whitefish, tilapia. You could use any of those fish. I promise you they will still taste so good. The other thing too is if you don't want to use fish, if you are a vegetarian, you could do this exact same dish. And instead of cutting up fish, you cut up zucchini, you cut up eggplant, and do the exact same preparation and bake them the exact same way, and they will taste amazing. I'm going to set my beautiful mahi-mahi aside for 1 second, and we're going to make the breading. I already have the egg, which I had just beat up a little bit and set aside so it will get to room temperature. I am going to set up a little breading station, so I've got 3 bowls. And in one bowl, I have my egg. In the next bowl, I'm going to add some flour. And again, I'm a anti-gluten kind of girl, so I'm going to put just some rice flour in the bowl. And my last bowl is going to be the special ingredient. You wouldn't think it would be special, but it is. And that is rice checks. You could use any kind of corn checks, rice checks. You could use corn flakes. These are gluten-free, so I use these, but you could do any kind of crunchy cereal, or you could do breadcrumbs or panko crumbs if that's what you like. Now, before I finish this, I'm going to add in some seasonings because I like to kind of let the food processor mix it all together so I know it's evenly distributed. I'm going to put some salt. You have to put salt. You will get flavorless fish, I promise you. And I'm actually going to add a little salt to my flour too. Okay. I'm going to add pepper, garlic powder, and a little crushed red pepper. Goes a long way. There's other spices that you really like with fish. You could use you could use ginger, you could put some sesame, like some sesame seeds in there. You could put all kinds of really, really yummy things. It's up to you, but I like it just very simple. It's check the breading. I should be able to taste some salt. You want to taste like, oh my god, that's a lot of salt, but you want to be able to taste some salt, because if you can't taste any salt, it's not enough. My breading station is ready. Now I also have a cookie sheet with a wire rack with Santa on it. It's going to help the fish stay elevated. It's not going to sit so that all the sides get nice and crispy. And I'm going to cut it into the size pieces that I want, because you want them to be able to cook through, get the breading all coated. I'm going to cut these in half just so I get more breading that way. If you have a fish that's really, really thin, like the tilapia fillets are usually really thin, and you think, well, I'm not going to get a nice big piece like that out of a tilapia fillet, you could actually take 2 pieces of tilapia and put them on top of each other and cut them that way and just bread the 2 pieces sandwiched together. It'll be just as big and yummy. But it doesn't really matter, you know, that's a nice chunky size, almost like a fish nugget. But there's nothing processed in it, nothing's been like ground up, because when you get those fish sticks, that's all we need to say. I'm going to dredge, as they call it, or just kind of lightly coat the piece of fish in the flour, and then I'm going to dip it in my egg and then roll around in those yummy, yummy breadcrumbs we just made. Put that right there. Okay, now you may think, well, I don't like fish, or my kids don't like fish, or we choose not to eat fish, or whatever it is. You could do chicken nuggets, chicken fingers with the exact same preparation. It's all about how you cut them. The other thing is, this is a great way to get your kids to help and to learn how to cook, is to get them involved. They love to get their hands dirty. You don't want to go stick in your hands in egg and breadcrumbs and stuff. Your kids will do it. They play in dirt all day. They love it. And you will know that you are done. And your fingers look like that. Ah. Okay, now we need to make these extra yummy crispy. So just take your regular old cooking spray. I just use regular cooking spray and put a nice coating on the fish. I'm just going to take this and put it in a 450-degree oven for 10 minutes. That's it. So I've already got my beautiful macaroni already ready to go and cool down, so I'm going to set that aside. And now I need to make my cheese sauce to go on the macaroni. The first thing I'm going to do, you have to think about this in stages, because by the time my liquid mixture on the stove is right, it's like boiling and ready to go, I need to have my cheese ready, so I can't be grating it as it's boiling because it'll scald and burn really fast. So first we're gonna do our cheese. I have 2 kinds of cheese. You could do this, I promise you, with Velveeta if you wanted to. It'll be creamy and wonderful. But I like to use kind of some fresh cheese. I've got about 1/2 pound of sharp, extra sharp cheddar. And the great thing about cheddar, the extra sharp cheddar, you may think, oh, you know, that's really, really strong cheesy flavor. But the stronger the cheesy flavor, the less cheese you need to put in it, so it's healthier. And the secret ingredient, I've got a Gruyere. G-R-U-Y-E-R-E. And it's creamy and it's got a bold flavor. But the great thing about that creaminess is it will add to the creaminess of your macaroni and cheese. So I'm just gonna grate these up and we'll get started. Now, this is a pile of wonderful full-fat cheese, which I prefer. I'd rather have a little bit of the full thing than a lot of the stuff that's like fat-free. I always say, life's too short for fat-free cheese. You could use a lower fat, but here's the problem with a low-fat or a no-fat cheese, is the fat needs something to hook onto. If you think about it, we're going to be using milk, which has fat in it, and the cheese has fat in it. The fat molecules, they connect together. So if you have nothing to connect together, you're going to have this gloppy, kind of just gross-looking cheese sauce, and it's just not going to taste the same. And I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of butter in the bottom of my pan. So melt that butter so that it's all melted down. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of flour, whatever kind of flour you like best, and mix it up right away. When you get all that butter and flour incorporated, so you get those little nuggets. Doesn't look like dust anymore. And it's almost going to come together like a little dough. And you're going to let that dough, those little pieces, you're going to let that cook just for about 1 or 2 minutes. I'm going to cook it until it gets like almost a little brown coating color to it. It's going to bring out the nuttiness and the flavor, and it's going to really enrich your sauce. Immediately want to add my milk. I've got 2 cups of milk. It's the easiest way to remember. If you want 2 cups of sauce, so you have 2 cups of milk, 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter. Now, the milk is going to heat and it's going to come up to a boil. But I want to help it along, and I want to whisk that dough that we have on the bottom with the flour and the butter, and we're going to whisk it into the milk. As it boils, the sauce is going to start to get thicker and thicker and thicker, and that's when you can start to add anything. That's really the basis for any bechamel, white sauce, all that good stuff. But keep it moving, because the longer you let it sit, it could burn and add this like grossness to the bottom, and it just ruins the whole thing. Now it's the best part. I'm going to take maybe a handful or 2 and set those aside for the topping. And I'm going to start to add my cheese in just little bits because I want it to melt. Remember, adding things to a hot liquid, especially if they're cold, is going to bring down the temperature. So I want to keep it boiling as it melts. So I don't want to add in too much at a time. And you'll see it start to change color. It's going to start to get thicker. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 egg, beaten, and I'm going to drizzle it really slowly into my sauce. You do it slowly because you don't want that egg to cook in the cheese sauce. You want it to temper, as they say, and kind of mix into the sauce, because that's going to help the macaroni and cheese all kind of stick together. I like to mix it in a bowl instead of in my baking dish, just because I think I can get everything coated better. So I have a bowl that can withstand heat. Take that cheese sauce and drizzle it over that pasta. Remember, that liquid's going to get even thicker as it cooks. Doesn't that look amazing? If you were going to serve it right away, you just use a little less of the cheese sauce so it stands up a little bit better. I'm going to season this with a little salt, pepper. I'm going to take our fish out of the oven. Oh, it smells so good. Look at that. They're crispy. Just set that there to cool a little bit. Now we're going to put together our mac and cheese. So you could use a regular 9x13 dish or 8x8, depending on how much you actually made. I'm going to use a muffin tin. A, because it looks really cool. And it's when you serve it, it's like this little macaroni and cheese muffin. It's easier to portion out that way. It's easier to take for lunches that way. And you can do all kinds of fun things. You can hide some veggies in there. But you can cook this however you want. I just think this is extra little fun for kids or for you. It even makes it look like fancier, like you're at a restaurant, how they make those the round of the salad or whatever. And I'm just going to take the mac and cheese and I'm going to fill each of the tins. And just top it with the remainder of your cheese. I don't know about you, but everybody in my family tends to fight for the Crispies, as we call them. You know, that baked cheese on the top of the casserole. This way everybody gets a little bit. I'm just going to stick these in that same oven for about maybe like less than 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. Time to take the mac and cheese out of the oven. Woo! Hot and steamy. Holy crap. Look at that bubbly goodness. You can let those get as brown as you like. We're going to let that cool down just a bit. Those pickles just came out of the refrigerator. Take a little pile of them. Kind of just do a little quick dice. A lot of people like tartar sauce with this. You could mix this with a little mayo, but I think this is beautiful just by itself. Crispy fish sticks that came out of the oven. All toasty goodness. Sprinkle a little bit of that relish that we just made on top. Oh, it's falling apart on me. But you know what? It's going to taste the same. It's got that crispy cheese on the top. Isn't that gorgeous? So let's try the fish. Maybe a piece of that homemade pickle we just made. Yum. The fish is savory and the breading is crispy and salty. Mixed with those salty and sweet pickles, that tastes really good. And if you can see, the fish is super flaky. That's what you want it to look like. And now the mac and cheese, the best part. You get the cheddar, the Gruyere makes it so creamy and wonderful, and the crispy top. And the noodles kind of puff up a little bit more when you bake them. Perfect. I don't know who wouldn't love this. You could dress this up, dress this down, your kids, your company. Everybody will love this. Fish sticks, fresh pickles, mac and cheese. So I just want to finish this with my favorite Shel Silverstein poem, and I hope you'll go eat some fish sticks and mac and cheese in his honor. But it's listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, and then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. Thank you so much. I will see you guys next week on Noms.
From classics to children's books, you never know what she's gonna cook when Gretchen makes novel Noms.